This is Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom. Words on leadership, goal setting, and productivity, and a whole lot more. Consider this your vitamin or supplement for your mind and heart. And wherever you download or listen to podcasts, would you please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom? And if you would leave a rating or a brief review, it is so helpful in order for others to be able to find this podcast. Thanks for joining me today. I want to talk about the subject of deadlines. Now, depending on what kind of work you do, what responsibilities you have, some of us work with more deadlines than others, but there are deadlines that are important to all of us. If you're running a household, there will be certain deadlines. You have to pay bills on a date certain. There are things to do at school that meet deadlines, assignments. Whatever industry you're in, you're going to have to learn how to deal with deadlines. And I have about 8 things that I think will help me. They help me. Don't think they help me. They do help me, but I believe they will help you as well. Are you ready to get started? Here are some ways to work your way up to and through the deadline. The first thing is, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good or great. When I started writing blogs or writing other kinds of articles for different places, I would read and reread and rewrite and edit and mark it up and continue to do that until the point that I was always pushed right up against my really hard deadline for getting the piece done. And what I've learned, especially when I'm writing for myself and writing a blog or an article, is don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good or the great. I proof and I edit the best that I can for my blogs, but it's not unusual that after it has been published for someone who reads it to tell me about a tense ending or a misspelling. And rather than it raining on my parade and ruining my day, I just go into quick edit in WordPress and I change it and I go on. And that is, if you wait till something is totally perfect, you may never ever get it accomplished. Now, I'm not saying don't do your best. You'll hear that in a moment. But you're never going to be perfect. You're never going to get the project done absolutely perfect. But do a good job. And even I would aim a little higher. Do a great job. But don't become paralyzed by perfection. Just do the best that you can and make that your goal, to do a great job, not a perfect job. The second thing that I do is when I really sit down in earnest and start blocking time to work on a project or whatever the item is that is facing a deadline, is I gather everything I need. If there's material that my administrative assistant has or someone else has, or if there's research that I need to do in the internet or in a book, I gather that together. As a matter of fact, if I could open my computer right now and let you look at it, the various projects that I'm working on right now, they are in a folder. And so when I get a document or an idea or a thought or a quote or some other data that has been given to me, I put it all together. And then when I am ready to set the block of time to work on those areas of my deadline, I don't have to spend all of my time hunting and searching and calling people and asking them what was that book, where is that data, the emails, whatever it is. I save them in Evernote actually. And I have it so that if I know tomorrow I'm going to work 50 minutes on something that has a hard deadline on it, the night before I make sure that I look in that folder in Evernote, that all of the material I think is there. And if there's a couple of other thoughts that come to me, I'll either jot them down or something I know I have somewhere else. I will make a copy of it, paste and copy, make sure it's all in that folder so that tomorrow when I'm ready to work on that, everything that I know that I need as of right now is in one location so that when the time comes and I set the timer, that's how I work, I have everything that I need to work on as I'm trying to get this thing accomplished and I'm facing a deadline. Too much of our time is wasted because we don't keep everything in one place. We have a difficult time locating it on the fly. So before you start really in earnest, gather everything that you need that you know of today. As you work through the project or the proposal or whatever it may be that you realize there is some missing information. Well, I would make my task tomorrow to go and locate that information, track it down so that I am ready to do the project. So gather everything you need, put it in one place. The third thing is avoid procrastination. Years ago, I was given a writing assignment by my church, by my denomination, to write a course. And I was excited about it, and I began gathering information. But I was somewhat paralyzed by fear because this would be my first writing assignment. And you want it to be perfect. And I kept avoiding and I kept crashing through deadlines. And finally, the editor, rightly so, took it away from me as a young man. And I learned my lesson there. Quit avoiding procrastination. Quit putting it off. You keep your head down and get the work done. So whatever the kinds of things that you substitute that are procrastination, learn to beat them. I have done a podcast or two on procrastination, and I'm sure there'll be some others. But set the timer, get the work together, put your head down, do the work, and avoid procrastination. Break it down into small enough pieces that you have the ample time to accomplish it step by step before you get to the deadline. Nearly everything you're going to try to accomplish in life, you're going to have to fight procrastination. Number 4, listen to your intuition. There are times when I start a project or begin something I'm working on, and I have this idea, this is how this is all going to work out. This is how this is all going to look. And as I get into it and look at the data and look at the information and begin to really think about it, pray about it, and work on it, I don't know what else to call it. And I am on those personality tests on the intuitive side, but there's just a certain sense that I get now. Sometimes I'm wrong, but as I'm working on it, if I feel that, I'm not sure this is going to go the right direction, maybe I need to go this direction, I at least listen to my intuition, and maybe for a few moments we'll even explore, well, if I go that direction or if I do this, and it might change. And time after time, it proves to be a better way. I'm not saying every time, but don't have a predetermined plan before you start something and you say, no matter whether it fits or not, I'm going to push this through. It's okay to change. It's okay to change direction. If you have data and information and facts that say something different than what you thought when you began, be a wise woman or a wise man and be willing to change if you need to, if the facts lead you in that direction. Number 5, one of the reasons that people are plagued with procrastination as they're facing a deadline is that some of the projects that we have, we know are risky. We're going to have to take a risk. We're going to have to go against the status quo. There might be people who will question, why are we doing this? That is always true when you're a leader. You're going to have to periodically take a risk. As you're studying things, you're learning things, you're praying about it, and you see that this is a direction you're going to do, fear comes in when you know you have to take a risk, and not everyone's going to be pleased with the decision, and not everyone's going to appreciate it. If you believe this is a risk worth taking, then just make up your mind you're going to take the risk, and don't become paralyzed by fear and then run through the deadline and not meet it. If you're a leader, there's no way around it. You're going to have to take a risk periodically. The 6th thing that I do, especially if I feel like it's risky and I'm getting close to the deadline and I'm wanting to see, does this make sense to anyone else? I find a friend who's confidential, someone who's in a relationship with me, who will be truthful but do it in a kind sort of a way. someone that I can bounce the ideas off of, someone that I can say, this is where I'm going, this is where I think this is all leading. Can you help me see the blind spots? Can you help me see what might be some of the downfalls that I don't particularly see at this moment? Find a trusted friend, but it has to be someone who's very, very confidential and closed mouth. But at times you need an advisor, and I like to bring some in at times and begin to talk with them who aren't related to what we're doing. They're not involved. They're not emotionally vested in it. And because of that, they can be neutral. And I have found those people to be exceedingly helpful when, especially if you're stuck or you're kind of wondering, am I really working this to the way that it should be? So find that friend. Maybe that's what you need to do today, is to cultivate that kind of a friend. Because you're taking a risk, and some of the deadlines and some of the things that you're working on, everyone's not going to be pleased and everyone's not always going to be happy. Regardless of what someone says, make sure that you always cultivate a tender heart. Don't allow your heart to become hardened. Matter of fact, I did preach a sermon series years ago called A Tender Heart and a Tough Hide. And unfortunately in life, especially in leadership, it seems we get it reversed. We get tough skin, and we don't have tough skin. We have a hard heart and thin skin. Develop a tender heart. Remember that everyone doesn't see everything just exactly as you do. Remember, some people are early adopters, and some adapt more easily to change than others. Work with them. Go along on the journey with them. And if they criticize or they say mean things, don't allow it to steal your joy or to allow you to become a hard-hearted person. And the eighth and final thing I would say in meeting the deadlines, when you get to the point where you've gathered the information, you started out not letting the perfect be the enemy of the great or the good. You gathered it all together. You did your best not to procrastinate. When needed, you listen to your intuition. You are ready to take a risk. You've talked it over with a friend. Then do your best. Meet the deadline. Do your best. Do the best work that you can do, and then meet the deadline. If you're going to be of value in your organization, do not get the reputation as someone who blows through deadlines and pays no attention to them. It will aggravate people in your organization. Learn how to handle your work. Learn how to organize yourself. Learn how to break it down into easier steps. Don't procrastinate. Keep going, and become a person in your organization that's known. John or Mary is a person who brings every project in before the deadline. That's the reputation you want. So don't be afraid of a deadline. I am sure, my friends, today that there are some of you that are dealing with some deadlines. Let's push through and do what we need to do and take the steps that are needed to take. You've been listening to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I hope today this has been a vitamin or a supplement for your mind and heart. And again, wherever you listen to podcasts, would you please subscribe and rate and review this podcast? It's very helpful. And be sure and tell your friends about it. And this is Dr. Ron saying, until next time, don't become afraid of the deadlines. Meet them. And remember, leader, you're doing better than you think you are.